Since the beginning of man, the deepest philosophical thought one could have is the contemplation about how our universe came into being. In this series, we will be exploring the arguments and counter-arguments for the existence of God. The cosmological argument began with Plato and Aristotle and traditionally establishes the existence of a first cause. A first cause pertains to the ultimate cause of all events, which itself does not have a cause. However, this does not necessarily provide hard proof for a theistic God. Plato posited that all movement in the world and the cosmos was imparted motion and required a self-originated motion to set it in motion and to maintain it. Later, St. Thomas Aquinas adapted and enhanced the argument he found in his reading of Aristotle to form one of the most influential versions of the cosmological argument. His conception of the first cause was the idea that the universe must be caused by something that itself is uncaused, which he claimed is that which we know to be God. Aquinas wrote of 5 causes that he believes proves the existence of God, the first 3 causes making up the cosmological argument. They are as follows: the argument from motion, the argument from causation, and the argument from contingency. Let's put these 3 arguments under the microscope and explore the cosmological argument as we seek to solve the age-old question, does God exist? The argument from motion. Things move. Since nothing moves itself, everything that is moved must be moved by another. If that which causes the motion in itself is being moved, then it must be moved by another. This process cannot go on to infinity. Therefore, there must exist a first unmoved mover, which Aquinas argues is God. For an example, let's think of your computer mouse. Your computer mouse is here and is now being moved by your hand. A hand which is being moved by muscles. And your muscles are being moved by nerves which are being stimulated by the brain. Your brain is being sustained by blood and oxygen, and so on and so forth. Now, when Aquinas speaks of motion, he means change of any kind, not simply change of location. Growth in wisdom, fluctuation in temperature, birth, death, etc. are all examples of motion, or in his more technical language, the transition from potentiality to actuality. Once we grasp what Aquinas means by motion, it is relatively easy to understand why he insists that nothing can move or change itself. Aquinas often speculated about how illogical the idea of infinite regress is. Infinite regress is that in which the universe has eternally existed. So if everything needs a mover, and the universe did come into existence at some point, then logically you must have an unmoved mover. That which is an infinite being that exists outside of space and time, which existence is a necessity to set all other causes in motion. That is what people refer to as God. The argument from causation. Anything that begins to exist from nothing has a cause. The universe began to exist from nothing. Therefore, the universe has a cause. In our universe, it is apparent that everything must have a cause and an effect. This is the fundamental law of physics. In our universe, nothing is the cause of itself, meaning that anything material must require something or someone beyond itself to come into existence. So considering that we now know because of the Big Bang that the universe did in fact have a beginning and is not timeless, what caused the universe to come into existence? What or who caused the Big Bang? It is important to remember that because there cannot be an infinite number of causes, there must be an uncaused first cause. Someone or something that does not need a first cause, but is responsible for setting the chain of causes in motion. Again, this is the idea of God. Argument from contingency. This argument is based on the fundamental idea that everything in the universe is contingent, meaning that everything that exists does not have a necessary existence. This means that everything that did exist ceased to exist prior. First, let's reveal the difference between something contingent and something not contingent. Something contingent would be something such as a mountain or a pencil, the computer mouse we mentioned earlier. They don't exist by a necessity of their own nature. Rather, they have external causes which explain why they exist. A non-contingent being would be something along the lines of numbers or a math equation, shapes. These things are not contingent. They simply exist through a necessity of their own nature. In a nutshell, everything that exists has an explanation for its existence, either in the necessity of its own nature or in an external cause. So if everything simultaneously exists, that means that at some point, nothing existed. There was nothing to cause the existence of everything. Something cannot come from nothing. Therefore, everything must have been brought into existence by something or someone with a necessary existence. Something that was not brought into existence but has always existed regardless of time and space. A German philosopher made a similarly intriguing argument that goes as follows. Every contingent fact has an explanation. There is a contingent fact that includes all other contingent facts. Therefore, there is an explanation of this fact. This explanation must involve a necessary being. This necessary being is God. Bertrand Russell argued that the existence of the universe is simply a brute fact, and it exists without a cause or reason. Just because everything in the universe has an explanation does not mean the universe itself must require an explanation for coming into being. Now, Christian philosophers would argue back that this theory holds little weight since the discovery that the universe did have a finite beginning. There was a point in which the universe ceased to exist, which has been proven by science and more specifically the Big Bang. Since the universe came into existence at a particular point, it logically follows that the universe had an initial cause. Now, that may be a sound argument if one believes in the Big Bang. However, recently, some scientists have turned away from the Big Bang and have started to theorize altering ideas about the universe. A popular one being the oscillating universe theory. This theory argues for an endless chain of universes coming in and out of existence, meaning that this universe came into existence but is merely part of an infinite amount of universes. Now, this obviously conflicts with Aquinas' idea of infinite regress being insufficient. An interesting response to the prior would be the Kalam cosmological argument, popularized by theologian and Christian philosopher William Lane Craig. This argument attempts to show the logical insanity of arguing in favor of an infinite universe. We must begin by considering the two types of infinity, the possible infinity and the actual infinity. The possible infinity is something comes into existence at a specific time and will carry on existing forever. An actual infinity, something never comes into existence but has always existed. It not only infinitely progresses into the future, but also infinitely goes back into the past. The theory of infinite regress argues for an actual infinite universe. The problem raised by William Lane Craig is that if we have an actual infinite universe, then it would be logically impossible to reach present time. If there is an infinite past, then there is no point of beginning to start adding moments which lead up to the present. Because of this, many reject the idea of an infinite regress and the infinity of the universe. The universe must have had a beginning point. This was caused by God. The following argument to dismantle this would be to assume if the actual universe is not impossible, why is it logical to say God is infinite? The reply would be that God is not a contingent being. The universe is. The universe consists of space and time. God is beyond space and time and the laws of nature. He is a necessary being that exists independent of space and time. Many atheists argue that something can come from nothing with the example of quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics suggests that strict causal relationships break down at the quantum level. This would make the first premise of the Kalam cosmological argument false by fundamentally changing the meaning of begins to exist. Simply put, quantum mechanics is the rare instance in which things begin to exist from nothing. For the counter-argument to the quantum mechanics issue, let's consider William Lane Craig's explanation. William Lane Craig states, There are at least 10 different physical interpretations of the mathematics of quantum mechanics. Some of these interpretations are fully deterministic. It is only in some of these, principally the Copenhagen interpretation, that events are said to occur without determinate causes. But that is only 1 out of 10 of the interpretations of quantum mechanics, and nobody knows which physical interpretation is correct. So in fact, it is not a successful counter-argument for the first premise of the Kalam. Alright guys, that wraps up that video. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a comment on what you'd like to see next. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, put post notifications on, do all that stuff. And if you're not already, make sure to follow me on my social media accounts. The links will be in the description as well as right here. Till next time, I'll see you. Peace.